What is up, guys? You got Not the Worst here, bringing you another Silver Prowler breakdown guide, and today we are covering, finally, the new Cadry location. So there was, if you didn't know already, there was an update to Cadry. The scroll drop, well, all of Valencia really, but the scroll drop rate was increased by 350% at Cadry Ruins. So after that, I've done guides on Cadry before, but they needed to be redone, and I wanted to get a full 20 hours grinded in like we were doing for the other spots with the new drop rate, so we can kind of see what's going on there. So Cadry Ruins, if you don't know, first of all, is located in the Valencia area. You don't need your desert debuff water and tea for this area. You don't get the desert debuff since you're kind of shaded or whatever rationale they want to make for that. But it's right out here, so if you compare it to Altanova, see out here, you just head out a little ways past Bazzi Den before Centaurs. It's right out there. You have two little entryways that are easiest to get into. There's actually three, but one's terrible. The easiest, you can just come in directly through this way. There's also another little pathway out this side, and then if you're headed off to Kutum, I suppose you could go out the little side thing here. You wouldn't really go around this way, and you can actually get in from this entrance over here too, but it's really long and there's a bunch of mountains and stuff. So pretty much just stick with this entrance right here. Is the easiest to get to, quickest, coming from Altanova anyways. So yeah, that's the spot there. Let me go ahead and show you the rotations. Before I do that though, you can see the recommended AP is 140 for Cadry. I'm gonna say you probably want to be 190-ish or so. Not to say you couldn't be a little bit lower if you wanted to, but to be really efficient, you probably want even more than that, 190 kutum, if not more. Just because the mobs here are very tanky. A lot of them do have frontal guard on them, the regular mobs, not even just the elites. So it's gonna be a little bit of a struggle if you're under AP. Much lower than that. Again, you could do it without it, but you're not going to be blowing through the mobs, you know, 1-2 shot in groups like that. You're going to be kind of fighting a little bit if you don't mind that, or maybe you even have some lower tier pets so that they're not looting as quickly. It's not a bad alternative. If it takes you a little bit longer to kill some mobs, you're going quality over quantity at that point anyways. So yeah, just use a set of buffs and you'll be all right. So I'm going to zip through and show you the rotations. There are 7 elites that spawn in this area as well as a gatekeeper. Gatekeeper we're going to want to avoid because you'd most likely want a group to pull that off, but I will point out where the elites spawn for it, and then kind of show you the rotations. So there's really only one great rotation at Cadry, and it's in the back. This one is something you could use, but I personally don't. I would just go to another server before I use it, but you could use this front circle area. You're going to end up clearing it faster than they respawn, so you end up having to go up either this little stairway or this stairway that leads to the back and kind of clearing extra mobs around that way because they just don't respawn as fast as you're going to get through. As far as elite spawning points, you have 2 out here. One spawns right around this little zone here, and he kind of treks around, and the other one I saw was actually up. I saw him on my minimap. He spawns right on over here. So you can see him right there. Boom, so there's that guy. If you are under what the recommended AP, what I'd recommended earlier, you're probably going to struggle with those and you're going to have a hard time killing them. There are a lot of people that do like to come through and actually just farm the elite rotations, specifically the elites. So if you're taking too long to kill those Cadry elites, there's a good chance somebody's going to come up on you, kill you, and take your elite mob as well. So kind of keep that in mind. But they are definitely worth killing, which we'll get into when we take a look at the drop analysis. So this isn't really rotation, but right here is another elite spawns. Sometimes I do see people kind of farming up and down this hill. It's pretty slow and inefficient, and again, I would recommend a server change if you have the option for it. Elite spawns right up here, and if you wanted to try and make like a sort of little not so great rotation, you could grind through this area and then down in this little crevice which drops off to a cliff there, and then kind of work your way down here. Again, not great. Honestly, Cadry is more of like a one-person farm, maybe 2, that can farm efficiently. One person could have the bad rotation of running all through that area and maybe running the front, and then you have your good rotation, which is going to be here in the back, and with a couple different variations. I'll show you the way I like to do it. Looks like somebody's farming here now, so I'll just zip through and show you the way I like to do it, and then give you a heads up where the gatekeepers are, and then we'll take a look at the drops. This big circle area here does have a lot more mobs that are normally up. Someone's farming at the moment, which is no big deal. There's an elite spawn point standing right here where I'm at, and another on the other side of the circle here, and then the rotate, he goes right here. The rotation I like to do is I'll start from this circle area right here. I leave my horse right in this spot here because he's safe here, so I'll just drop him off here, pop my inventory if I need to overfill him with some of the trash loot, and then go on. So I'll run down these stairs, kill all these mobs like this guy's been doing here, zip my way on down here. We have our final elite spawn, which is he'll spawn right in this group of dudes right here. Kill all of these bros down in this circle area here, and then on back up this way. and it nicely loops right back around to the big circle, gives you plenty of time to clear the mobs, and they'll be respawned by the time you get up there. You can also go around. I'm going to show you this other entryway up here. So if you wanted to circle around the other way, or maybe if somebody else is farming that direction and you're on server cooldown or something, you could also use that same staircase, come up this circle area, and then zip down here and kind of use this as a circle. Now this is one of the gatekeeper spawn points, so this area is not going to work very well for you if he's up, which you can see him right there. That's not going to work so great for you. But if he's not up, you could run through here, and this will circle back around down the stairs where we came up earlier. So there you go. It gives you an idea of the spawn points. There's another gatekeeper spawn point down, if you can see that archway way down in the corner over there, where he can also spawn, but that's not really going to mess with your rotations as far as what we saw there. So that's that. Honestly, like I said, one person rotation is what I'd really stick with. You want this main rotation to make it worth your time. If you're waiting on cooldown, you could maybe run through that front area a little bit. And then also when you're doing the rotation, I wouldn't necessarily just stick to the mobs. Making sure you check on those elite spawn points every once in a while is definitely going to be worth your while. And I'll show you why when we look at the charts here. Before I pull those up, I want to mention, as usual, the normal setup things for how I did this. Number one, when I'm grinding this stuff, I'm watching Netflix, I'm doing other stuff, got some anime going, I'm just not paying attention in general overall. So when we're talking about trash loot or things like that, obviously you can do a little bit higher if you're straight up grinding and going full all out. I usually just use a food buff and run with that. I don't go too hard because I can one-shot everything in here fairly easily at Softcap. I have a node level 10. I also use 5 tier 3 pets. Along with my node level 10, I have ecology at 5% item drop rate, so there's that as well. The chart we can see here. So this is what everybody's waiting for. This is new Cadry. First things I'm going to go ahead and point out, yes, across 20 hours with no loot scroll used whatsoever, I averaged 56.5 million per hour, which is actually pretty insane considering this is not Histria or Ackman. It's very, very good. What I'm going to point out to you, though, is what makes the money here. And it's not so much the scrolls. Obviously, that definitely helped because Cadry used to be an average of like 1 or 2 scrolls per hour before. You can see my overall average being between 5 and 6, a little under 5.5 coming across here. So some hours I was at 8. I did have a few with 3. There was one at 2. But overall just averaging out to 5. Obviously, that's going to help a lot to the money per hour. But the biggest thing has been because of the changes to the Valencia accessories. Since you can melt the Yona fragments, the ring price has gone up exponentially. These hardly ever sold before. The Cadry rings, around 4 million was their list price, and they would just sit on the marketplace for a long time. Now these are pretty easily selling over 15 mil plus. They're actually sitting over 16 mil right this half a second, but for what I was factoring for the ring pieces and the rings themselves, I was factoring them at 15 mil as far as cost-wise on that. Now, what are ring pieces? I'm going to pull up the item drop rates so we can take a look at that, and I'll explain that if you're not familiar with it. Essentially, it gives you a way to create the ring without actually getting a drop. So you can get a physical drop of the Cadry ring here, and what you can also get is these 3 pieces right here. Okay, so 9 of these, you need 1 of each of these to be combined into a Cadry ring. 9 of these can turn into 1 of these, 5 of these can turn into 1 of these, and then you need 1 of each piece. This one drops about as often as a Cadry ring, in all honesty. Actually, in my testing, it dropped a little less than the Cadry ring, but I think that was a little bit of a fluke for the most part. These drop pretty often, and then these guys drop all the time. So yeah, those get combined into make a Cadry ring, which you can melt down for 3 to 5 Yona fragments, or just sell it since the price on these is great. I know a lot of people are hoarding up on stuff for the anticipation of the new marketplace coming to NA, which hasn't happened just yet. So that being the case, you can see my ring piece here. This was pumping out a lot of the money per hour to help as well, because this turned into a lot of Cadry rings. I only had in the 20 hours 3 raw Cadry drops, just straight up ring drops, and I only had 1 Obsidian Destruction. So the way I factored these, each piece was a value of 1. So they were valued at 0.3 each, because if you add them all up to combine into 1, you get 15 mil, which is what we were valuing the ring at. So a full set of them would equal 15 mil, and I broke them down individually as if they were a blue circle. So when a obsidian piece drops, that's effectively 45 blue circles. So I actually had 1 drop here, and then I had 3 blue circles drop as well. So it was a total of 48 ring pieces for that hour. So I was able to make quite a few Cadry rings throughout this, averaging about 10 ring pieces, actually exactly 10 ring pieces per hour, which was just incredible. My trash loot varied quite a bit. A couple things to note: I only had a few hours with PvP. It was 3 different hours that were straight up PvP. I did have a number of hours where there were other people kind of impeding on my grind spot. It didn't actually flag up before they'd kind of go away, but it did affect the grind just a little bit. But the other reasons why the trash loot kind of goes all over the place, between 4K and 5K, and a little, just barely push past 5K, is because one of the most efficient ways to grind this area isn't just sticking to your rotation. You want to make sure, like I said earlier, you're keeping an eye on those elite spawns. That's really where you're going to make your money, because not only do they drop a bunch of Rosar weapons, but those Rosar weapons can be enhanced, which are then extracted for Blackstones, which generate 50% of the income from this place in general. So you can see the Blackstone amount that I was getting. What I did here, for between my Rosar weapons that was dropping and the Blackstones, any Rosar weapon that was dropped and it was enhanced, I did not count in the Rosar count. So each hour here, for instance, here we had 42 Rosar weapons. That was just unenhanced Rosar weapons. This place drops about 30 to 50 Blackstones naturally on its own, and then whatever Rosars you get after that I would extract, and I just added those straight into the stone count. So this was my final Blackstone count per hour after extracting my Rosars. So I was averaging about 75 Blackstones per hour, which is a lot of money coming in there. As far as other things with it, Caphras a little over 1 an hour, which is to be expected anywhere in Valencia. Dust at 7.5 is pretty high because the elites here actually drop dust very frequently. It's not a 100% guarantee, but it's like 90%. They almost always drop it. Crystals I was seeing right on the nose, about 1 every other hour. So 2 hours to get 1 crystal there, pretty much across the board, although you can see plenty of zeros there, and I actually had a few hours where there were 2 that kind of evened it out. We already talked about the scrolls averaging at 5. Petals being a world drop. We've seen this somewhat consistently across most places. The Shira Ruins came out a little bit higher than this just because the mob density being so much higher. Yona Fragments, I ended up finishing exactly 1 per hour. Note that I had 1 hour there was 4, but for the most part it was 0, 1, 0, 1, and then some 2s here and there across the board. The Seraph Necklace, I only had 1 drop, and the reason for that is that drop actually only comes from elites. No other mobs in Cadry can drop that at all, so you can only get a chance to do it off of the elites, and their drop rate on it's not super high either. So yeah, only got 1 out of the 20 hours for it. But there you go. You can see individual hours, my lowest being at 33, and then my highest was, I think we cracked 80. Yeah, 81.93 in this hour there. And that mostly came from, we had 2 Yonas out of that, 82 Blackstones, which is pretty huge, a bunch of Rosars on top of it, a little bit of dust, and then you can see 7 scrolls that hour as well. Was that the Seraph hour? Yeah, that was also the hour we got the Seraph, so there's that too. Any of the hours we got the rings were up there pretty high. So yeah, I mean, there's our drop breakdown for it. Honestly, a lot of this money, I'm telling you, comes from extracting the Rosars, and then the scrolls actually kind of just pushing it up higher. Grinding any spot for 20 hours and having your lowest hour be 33 million, and I think that was the only hour that wasn't at least 40. Yeah. So coming out 20 hours, averaging exactly 56.59, no loot scroll, never on Arsha. Honestly, the spot is really incredible right now, so I highly recommend, if you can handle this place as far as with the AP and you're clearing at good times, this is probably one of the best places to be at right now. Maybe Centaurs or something like that probably rivals this kind of money per hour. Anything outside of History and Akhman I don't think is going to get much closer to this, but we'll find out as we move on to the next areas. So that's going to be pretty much it. This place, last note, does have Marnie stones, which you can get from the node manager that's at the very front entrance up the little mountain. He's on this little mountainside. When you first come in, you got to kind of climb up the mountainside over here. You can grab Marnie stones from the guy right next to him. There's a Marnie's assistant right there, so that you can grab some XP if you are trying to work on that as well. Again, not the best place for XP because the mob density isn't quite as large as you have at something like Shira Ruins, Nagas, Gahas, things like that, where you'd burn through a lot faster. So yeah, that's it for this one. Make sure you guys put in the comments. The next one up was voted Pilaku, so I'm going to be doing that one for the next 20-hour silver breakdown. But let me know what you guys want to see after that one so I can start working on that as well. I've already started out at Pilaku a few hours in, so I've gotten a head start on that to try and get it out for you guys as quickly as possible. Make sure you like this video and share it with your friends to show them, boom, here's some grinded out at Cadry. Let me know how you guys have been doing with it. How's your node at, and how much does that affect you guys as well. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you get notifications when we get new videos going out, which is all the time. And I try to get one of these 20-hour silver breakdowns at least once a week when I can, but you know, 20 hours in is a little bit daunting. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Everybody, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.